In terms of work, when you think about the shift from manufacturing to service industries, it's no longer necessarily located to a physical place.
I agree. A lot of us are going to be working more at home, but we're going to be working until we're 85 years old.
Well, 85 is the new 40.
It's true.
The future. When I look at the future, I see flying cars, but I wanted to know what other people see, so I assembled a group of forward thinkers. Dean Kamen lives in the future. He invented the Segway transporter and the iBot wheelchair and commutes to work in his own helicopter.
I fly and I land on the roof of a 150-year-old mill building.
Judy Gold is an award-winning writer and comedian who sees the future as both comedy and tragedy.
We are now seeing the effects of conspicuous consumption.
Kellyanne Conway has a sharp eye on the future. She's a political pollster who tracks public opinions and has a few of her own.
It's about time you make business responsible from who they employ.
Michael Eric Dyson, a best-selling author, professor at University of Pennsylvania. He's also an ordained Baptist minister.
Martin Luther King Jr. said, you're going to be a thermostat or a thermometer. Either you're going to change the temperature, you're going to register.
Amy Dickinson writes the nationally syndicated advice column Ask Amy, so you know she has something to say.
We won't have pension plans. We will not have health care. I don't think it's such a pretty sight.
And me, I'm Miles O'Brien, the host of this gathering and an amateur futurist. I'm just hoping someday I get my flying car. To top it all off, I'll sit down with the people who have the biggest stake in the future, kids.
I hope that there'll be less pollution in the future and the environment will be more healthy.
One thing that is on everybody's mind is gas prices these days. If you think about what Jimmy Carter got started during the first energy crunch, the push he made into some alternatives, which was pretty much scuttled in subsequent years when gas prices went down. In a sense, high gas prices, I think, create an opportunity for us to better our lives.
Well, I mean, we can't afford it, so it's basically forcing us. Plane travel, train travel, everything is so expensive now. I remember being in college, I filled up my car for $5, and now it's like $60 to fill up my gas tank. It's ridiculous.
My daughter and I were at the movies, and we were watching a scene. It takes place in Europe, and the character was driving a smart car, and she said, "Get a load of that, this tiny." And I said, "Yeah, gas over there has cost $10 a gallon forever, right. Or it's been very, very expensive," and forced people to adapt their mechanics and technology to that.
Well, the current environment has had a little bit of an effect on people and their gas consumption. But at the same time, the car is still the symbol of freedom and independence and American liberty, and it's going to take more than charging basically the same as a latte per gallon to folks to get them off of the roads and into alternative means of transportation.
I don't think Americans ever give up the car, but what we're seeing now, for the first time since the 70s, is talk about some alternatives. Let's take a look at what the future is going to look like.
On my daily commute, it's not so much what I see, it's what I smell of the pollutants. Riding my bicycle changed my perspective on the environment. Automobiles are a very large source of our pollution. We really need to make a big step in improving our overall fuel economy standards. My wish for the future is that we balance our existence on Earth. We have all of the tools available to us today, and if we don't do something to change it, we're not going to have a world to change.
When it comes to transportation, oil has become a dirty word. National security concerns, high gas prices, and threats to the environment have us all scrambling for alternatives. By now, you've probably heard of alternative fuels. From hydrogen gas to biodiesels, the list of energy sources is long. Nathaniel Green of the Natural Resources Defense Council says his money is on ethanol, an earth-friendly fuel that's cost-effective, too.
There's so many ways that we can make it. Switchgrass, corn kernels, wood chips. One of the exciting things about this next generation of ethanol technology is that they have the potential to be not just cost competitive with gasoline, but actually cheaper.
Something Brazil is already embracing. In fact, 75% of Brazil's new cars burn both gasoline and ethanol. And Green says it can happen here, too.
Ethanol is great, but it's not a silver bullet. We need to have more efficient vehicles as well that we're putting this fuel in. We need a government commitment to do this and do it in a smart way.
Who was the anchor person? He's hot.
He looks kind of like Wink Martindale.
Oh, he is really.
Kind of a Gene Rayburn for a new generation.
Sounds alcohol.
What are the alternatives that you see that may lie ahead?
I think we're now at a point where all the alternatives that were just not economically attractive alternatives, whether it's solar photovoltaics or ethanol or lots of stuff that we haven't even seen yet, all of those alternatives start to become attractive economically, and once they're in place, they'll be certainly attractive environmentally.
I think the addiction to oil, as the president said, is huge. And I think that addiction will play itself out, not like the crack pipe, but there will be some serious wrenching of the American economy and mindset before we're able to move past that fundamental fact of our existence.
I'm a little more pessimistic, like Michael, but I think that energy sources and the uses of alternative sources is going to be a class thing. It's going to be very chic to build your fabulous home using green sources and having green living spaces. It's going to be really chic to have hybrid cars, hybrid Hummers, but
that's a good thing in a way, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I think that's going to continue to be really expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think most of the successful world will end up realizing that the future is about ideas. The past was about stuff. And the world was fighting over gold or oil or whatever it was. If the world of the future is about ideas, that's a happy place if we can educate most of the world, because if there's 6 billion people having good ideas, that's better for all of us. It's not a zero-sum game like the world of stuff. You're not fighting over a finite resource, spreading it among more and more people. Instead, you have more ideas, more solutions, more wealth being shared by more people.
You are a raging optimist, aren't you?
I need to take your medication. What do you want?
I want to move to...
Oh, my God.
Imagine your own personal submarine. Would you like that, kids?
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you want your own submarine. Come on, boys and girls.